Good morning, friends, learners and listeners. You are listening the words from Dr. Rakesh on ePay Learning app. You are providing words and thoughts, natural ideas, natural words for enhancing your speaking, reading, writing and listening in English. How we can enhance our capabilities in the 4 modules of learning. It is greatly required with every scholar and learner. Those who are preparing themselves for speaking fluent and correct English. There are 4 modules in English. It is well known by the scholars. But how they can speak well, how they can write, read and listen well. Listening means simply it is our present sense of mind. If we are listening with 100% present sense of mind, then our mind retaliates and reacts on the questions. If we listen any question, any interview, any dialogue between the different characters, then our mind starts recording informations for a long time. Later on, what discussion, what informations we listen, that is recorded by our mind in the form of energy. And then, after completing our listening, we understand the words, thoughts, ideas of the conversation. And what are the fill in the blanks? What is required in the fill in the blanks? We get the information while listening with 100% present sense of mind. So it is a great training in the linguistic lab which provides our scholars completeness and fluency in their listening. Listening is the first part of the learning. After listening with 100% present sense of mind, a learner knows that how to listen, and before that a learner has to know that how to think. Later on in the second step, whatsoever we listen, secondly our mind starts speaking, our mind starts producing words according to our speaking. Whatsoever we speak, that is the result of our listening. Whatsoever we produce in the form of words, that is the result of our energy in the form of listening that is recorded. Thirdly, we know this thing that what to speak, how to speak, when to speak and why to speak. These are the normal questions that raise in the minds of the speaker, and when this mind gets the ideas, thoughts, words related to speaking, then a speaker or scholar learns how to describe person, place and thing. It is very common thing. There are 3 kinds and 3 types of the person, place and thing. Simply if we have to explain, describe and define any person, then we can define with personal pronoun. There are 3 pronouns that our scholars study in English. First is speaker in the first form, in the first person pronoun, I, my, me, we, our, us. It plays the role of speaker. Secondly, you, your, you, it is the second person pronoun which plays the role of a listener. And third, about whom we talk. He, his, him, she, her, they, their, them. These are the special pronouns for defining third person personality, third person's speciality and particularity. Fourth, which is the very important thing for speaking, that is the use of it. Everything whatsoever we have around us, in the form of objects, things, articles, even if we are to define any living or non-living things, in the form of birds, plants, creatures, we define all these objects in the form of it. So these are the three important classifications of the pronouns that we are to learn and we are to use for describing, explaining the things, persons and places. Sometimes if a speaker has to speak on any place related to his or her hometown, then we use it. By using it, we explain any place. Everyone who tries to explain his hometown, then he thinks that how he should explain it. It's very correct idea. As per his imagination, as per his thought, he can recollect in his memory about the picturization and about the photos. If he recollects, reminds, regenerates in his mind about the hometown, then easily he can frame the answer in his mind and easily he can define that place. Because all cities and villages, they have almost its same geographical features. There is no doubt, undoubtedly we can say city is entirely different from the village. But when we describe any city, then it has almost all facilities, and in our villages these are not less than the facilities, but they have different type of facilities in the village. So these can be defined as per the availability of the words and thoughts, ideas, whatsoever we have in our mind at the present time. So for speaking about these three things, easily a man can define: person, place and thing. Thing means any object that we have with us and that we have around us. In the form of any object, we can explain, we are to explain in our speaking interview about our objectives, things and goods like the watch, the shoes and things that we have in the form of users. If we are the user of any particular thing that we have with us, then we may have to define easily. So it is the common imagination that should be prepared morally before appearing in any kind of interview of speaking. So this is the interview of speaking, related to speaking, how to frame answers in our mind. Third, that is the reading, which is the most toughest module for the IELTS learners. Actually, it is the commonest and simplest module because it requires full concentration. It requires two techniques. First technique is that skimming and then scanning. In the skimming technique, a learner or scholar has to learn common ideas, common thoughts, and the person is related to what a reader has to keep it in his mind. When he goes through the newspaper, reading, he knows that how to explain national news, state news, sports news, economic news, political news, social news. So there are different types of news we find in the newspaper, and according to that we try to define and understand that in the form of skimming. Just by skimming means just to understand the picturization. Later on, that is scanning. Scanning means what information is required, what are the questions given behind the passage, and what answers we can provide for it, and how we can search out the answers of the questions easily and without making delay. It is a great art and skill of the learner, which is very common, but it requires 100% concentration of our mind. If we are concentrate 100% on its presence, only in that case we can prove that we are the good reader. Ultimately, in the learning module, we define writing. Writing is also the most practical part of language and learning.